The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald is about one man, J. Gatsby, who is trying to reinvent himself. The narrator is Nick Carraway, who moves to New York from the Midwest and ends up living next door to Gatsby. The story is told from Nick's point of view. The book is set in the summer of 1922. Nick moves to New York to begin his career selling bonds in Manhattan. He lives on Long Island in the town of West Egg. Nick goes to see Daisy and Tom. Daisy is Nick's cousin. Her husband and she now live in a mansion in East Egg. Over dinner, he picks up on the fact that Daisy is unhappy in her marriage and that Tom has a girlfriend. He also meets Jordan Baker, a famous golfer who he starts dating later in the book. Later that evening, when he goes home, he sees his neighbor, Mr. Gatsby, looking out across the water in the direction of Tom and Daisy's house. There's a green light at the end of Daisy's dock that is just barely visible. On the trip between West Egg and Manhattan, Nick has to pass through an old depressing area filled with ash heaps. There's a gas station and a billboard with a pair of eyes on it. On Sunday, Tom makes Nick meet his girlfriend Myrtle, who is married to the man who owns the gas station. They live above the garage in the Valley of Ashes. Tom keeps an apartment in the city so he's able to see Myrtle. At the mansion next to Nick's, there are lavish parties every night. One day, Gatsby's chauffeur delivers an invitation to Nick from Gatsby. So Nick goes to one of the parties, crowds of people come, drink heavily, and dance. Nick sees Jordan Baker there, and they stick together. He meets Gatsby, and they talk about Europe and their shared experiences in World War I. Gatsby is nice to Nick, and they start a friendship. One day in July, Gatsby takes Nick into the city. They have lunch with one of Gatsby's old friends. On the way, Gatsby tells Nick he's going to ask a favor of him, but that Jordan will explain it. Later that day, Jordan explains to Nick that Daisy and Gatsby fell in love years before, when Gatsby was stationed in Kentucky and an officer. Daisy stayed in love with him and almost ran away to New York to see him off. After the war was over, she got engaged to Tom Buchanan, but she almost didn't marry him because she got a letter from Gatsby. Now Gatsby wants to see Daisy. He wants Nick to invite her to tea because he wants Daisy to see his mansion. Nick does what Gatsby wants and invites Daisy and Gatsby over for tea. They are awkward and embarrassed at first, but Nick leaves them alone and comes back a half hour later. They have clearly decided that they are still in love. All three go to Gatsby's mansion, where Gatsby gives Daisy a tour of all of his rooms and expensive possessions. Daisy begins to cry when Gatsby shows them shirts he has had sent over from England. She says she is sad because she has never seen such beautiful shirts before. From then on, she starts coming to see Gatsby and having an affair with him. Daisy and Tom end up going to one of Gatsby's parties. Daisy doesn't like it, so afterwards, Gatsby fires all of his servants and stops having parties. Now Nick backtracks and tells us some about Gatsby's life story. Gatsby was the son of a poor farmer in Minnesota. He wanted to become rich, but he also wanted to seem like someone who had always been rich. He invented a new identity and name for himself. He went from James Gatz to J. Gatsby. When he was an officer in Kentucky, he was able to get a rich girl because the uniform made it impossible for people to tell if you were rich or not. Daisy waited for him for years, but after the war, she married Tom. Gatsby spent the next several years focused on becoming rich. On the hottest day of the summer, Gatsby and Nick go to Tom and Daisy's house. Gatsby is hoping to confront Tom and for Daisy to tell him that she is leaving him. The whole party, along with Jordan Baker, drive to Manhattan and get a suite at the Plaza Hotel. Gatsby does confront Tom, and reluctantly, Daisy does say that she never loved Tom and that she does want to be with Gatsby. Tom says that it is all nonsense, that Daisy isn't leaving him, and that he knows Gatsby is a criminal because he has had him investigated. Gatsby made his money in organized crime and selling bootleg liquor. Daisy breaks down and admits that it isn't really true that she never loved Tom. Tom sees that he is won, so he has Daisy and Gatsby drive home together in Gatsby's car. On the way back in another car, Nick, Tom, and Jordan discover that there has been an accident. Myrtle has been hit and killed by Gatsby's car. Nick takes Tom home. He sees Gatsby lurking outside Tom and Daisy's house. Gatsby explains that Daisy was driving the car, and he is covering up for her. Nick goes up to the house and can see that Daisy is not going to leave Tom. Gatsby still can't believe he has lost her, though. Myrtle's husband, George Wilson, tracks down the owner of the yellow car. Ultimately, Tom tells him it belongs to Jay Gatsby. George Wilson goes to Gatsby's house and kills him while he is floating in his pool. Nick tries to get people to come to Gatsby's funeral, but hardly anyone does. One of the few people to show up is Gatsby's father, Henry C. Gatz. He says he is proud of what Gatsby has achieved. In the end, Nick breaks up with Jordan over the phone and moves back to the Midwest.